As much as we might like to believe that the police were installed in society to protect and serve, there's just too much evidence that shows that the cops may not take this duty to heart. Instead, we see too many cases where cops totally disregard the rights and the dignity of those who are taught to see them as a symbol of security in society. Fortunately, this isn't always the case, and in today's video, we're going to show you several incidents in which these cops get served a good dose of their own medicine. Here are 7 times rude and arrogant cops who got humiliated by several members of society. Invasive cop. We start off with a bit of a situation that's worth snickering at. In this clip, the cops are compelled to pull a guy over because he's driving too slowly. What are you, a grandma? Well, the cops should have known what they were getting into, because when they approached his car in order to question him, the driver refused to roll down his window.
What for? What for?
He even asked them why they pulled him over. As you can imagine, this annoyed the cops because who is this guy? He even insists that according to the law, he isn't even obliged to roll down his window for them. The stones on this guy. That said, the guy did try to show them his papers through the window, although one of the cops decided to play along with the guy.
Sir, you do not have permission to open my door.
Well, you wouldn't roll the window down.
His partner was quickly running out of patience. As the guy kept showing them his papers, this agitated cop kept knocking on his window and on the car door. Unfortunately, that didn't work because the guy simply ignored the angry cop. Exasperated, the cheesed-off cop decides to do the unthinkable. He opens the driver's door. Everybody else is in shock. Just look at the angry cop's partner's face. Immediately, the driver points out the illegality of what the cop just did. The cop tries to pass it off by saying he only did it because the driver didn't roll his window down. Unfortunately for him, the driver was quite familiar with the Florida law, which didn't require him to roll his windows down. Only thing we can say is that these guys better get ready for the lawsuit that is sure to follow this breach of the law. Silly bully. Next up, we take a look at a clear case of a manipulator and a bully who just happens to be equipped with a badge. In this incident, this cop tries to apprehend a citizen on the false charge of soliciting.
You were trying to intimidate me. Yeah, you are. You're trying to intimidate me.
However, the man was bold enough to insist that this was false. When the cop still insisted on arresting him because he believed he had reasonable suspicion that the man was indeed soliciting, the man believed he had no other choice but to let him know that if the cop decides to continue down this line of events, he better get ready for a good old lawsuit. Incredibly, the cop tries to manipulate the situation by falsely claiming that the pedestrian was trying to intimidate him. This guy must be toxic. He's the one that came with all the heat. Regardless, the pedestrian doesn't fall for this baloney by holding his ground and insisting that if the cop tries to arrest him based on charges that are false, he better get himself a good lawyer. Fed up with the failure of his manipulative tactic, the cop leaves in a huff, all the while muttering under his breath that the guy just isn't worth it. Sure, that's right, guy, keep walking. Lying cop. From one cop who tries to abuse the law to another, we take a look at a situation where the police attempt to twist the law so they can exercise their power over common folk. Funny enough, this situation is already unique because in this recording of what should have been a routine traffic stop, it's the passenger that the officer has a problem with, not the driver. For one reason or the other, the cop demands for the passenger's ID.
Huh? I said I'm not giving it to you even if I did. Yeah, I did. I'm not giving you any even if I did.
However, the man has knowledge of the law, and as the said law does oblige him to produce his ID to this officer, he decides not to give it to the officer. Annoyed, the cop threatens to take him to the station, but the passenger stands his ground. As if they weren't already in a problematic situation, the cop then tries to apprehend the passenger for not having the seatbelt on. But the guy simply laughs him off because his seatbelt is clearly on.
I don't understand what the whole point of you pulling me and asking me for ID. You're not even allowed to do that. Ask me for ID.
What is wrong with this cop? It's probably at this point that the passenger realizes that this cop has it out for him, so he makes sure he recorded the events on camera. Angered by this and the fact that the man still hasn't given him his ID, the cops order him to come get out of the car. Angered by this unnecessary course of events, the man promises that he'll see them in court. Let's hope that he makes these bumbling cops get their comeuppance in court. Trespassing police. Here we have a truly distressing case. In times where we have pranksters and wannabe YouTubers who want only to intrude into people's homes, it's distressing to see that these people can escape proper prosecution. It's even more distressing to have to endure the unwelcome presence of cops in your home, especially when you've done nothing wrong. This is what happened to this man who has to deal with yet another cop who's casually strolling through his yard. Unbelievably, this isn't the first time this is happening, as the man has had to deal with multiple cops who wander into his property without a warrant or any other justifiable reason to do so. After he accuses the cops of bullying, the uninvited cop at the scene dismisses the man by claiming he isn't the one who's bullying him.
Coming. Have I bullied you? Have I ever bullied you?
Regardless, the man doesn't care. He just doesn't want these people on his property. Embarrassed, the cop is forced to leave. What a creepy situation. Arrogant cop. Over here we have a cop that is in dire need of an attitude adjustment. What was meant to be a mere routine check turned into a case where a cop just ended up looking like a bully.
He's gonna tell you to get off the bus. You don't get off the bus, I'm gonna take.
After a bus driver accuses a man of getting on the bus without a ticket, a cop storms onto the bus and demands that the passenger should get off the bus. Funny enough, the man refuses to do so. Annoyed by this, the cop asks the man for his ticket, all the while shutting the man down and arrogantly insisting that he's the one asking questions now. Suffice it to say, he must have been shocked when the man produced his ticket. Embarrassed, he must have turned pink when the passenger asked the cop's partner for their badge numbers. Guess who's the question now? Rather than humbly complying, the cop demands for the man's ID. Of course, the man refuses because he wasn't guilty of anything other than having to contend with a bully of a cop. As such, when the cop's request was refused, he decided to tuck his tail between his legs and leave. Another lying cop. I tell you what, it might be worth being like these guys over here because this must be the best way to get one over a lying cop on a power trip. This driver must have been shocked when a highway patrol officer pulled him over.
Down more. But why? So I can talk to you better, man. I'm not gonna talk to you through a crack like this.
Their initial interaction was troublesome enough, although the driver rolled his windows down to a reasonable degree. The cop insisted that he should wind down all the way. Apparently, that would help them communicate better.
This dash cam here,
Yeah.
and it records my speed.
Okay.
Unfortunately for him, not only was the driver not obliged by law not to do so, the driver also knew this, so he stood his ground and refused to roll his windows down any further. The cop then decided to push on to the real issue at hand. He accused the driver of speeding and is about to give him a ticket. This was so strange to the driver because his dash cam clearly shows that he wasn't speeding. Boy, did this humiliate the cop. Rather than admitting that he was wrong, the cop accused the driver of having an attitude. He then tries to make it look like the driver was the one making the incident a big deal. After all, it was just speeding. Good one, buddy. Nice try. Fire meets fire. Finally, we take a look at cops who definitely ask for more than they could handle. For whatever reason, this cop stops a man and accuses him of speeding.
Right? Proof of speeding.
Okay, sir, go ahead and step on out of the vehicle.
Immediately, the driver confronted them with evidence of the fact that actually he wasn't speeding. And guess what? He's got the dashcam record to prove it. He then asked for the cops' proof that he was speeding. Rather than coming with his own proof, the cops give the man an attitude as he orders the driver to give him his ID. Fully aware of his rights, the man refused this request. Instead, he gets upset as well, so he proceeds to let the man know exactly what he thought about the lying, domineering cop. Humiliated, the cops decide to illegally detain the man. Well, I hope they have some plans for what's coming next because such a driver isn't going to let them get away with such a flagrant abuse of power. Feel free to smash that like button after enjoying our video. Also, be sure to subscribe to our channel, Cops vs. Karma, and hit that bell icon so you'll be notified whenever we upload a video. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, goodbye!